everyone, this is Remleiz from 40k Theories, and welcome to this new episode of Adeptus Podcastus. And joining me as always is Tactica Imperialis.
Hello everyone, please accept my apologies in advance if I sound even more awful than usual. I've got a cold.
We all do, it's the season.
Yes.
No guest this week, purely on the basis that I never actually got round to booking a guest, so apologies for that, but we can use this episode to take some time to try and answer some more questions because we didn't get around to doing any last episode.
And there's a shit ton of news.
That as well, yes.
There is, sorry, I shouldn't swear in the first 2 minutes. Sorry, demonetization gods. But yeah, there is a metric ton of stuff to go through. Like, we were talking in previous episodes about sometimes there's just a quiet cycle and then the cycle goes crazy. Yeah, this is the crazy part of the cycle. We've got 2 sets of heresy miniatures, Christmas miniatures, we've got Black Library previews, we've got the World Championships preview. There's so much here to unpack.
Yes, so let's start off with the leak we mentioned in the last episode that was proven to be true. Brand new Deathwing Knights.
Indeed. So this forms part of Crusade Pariah Nexus. Yes, the Tyranids managed to be the centre of the limelight for, checks notes, 5 months.
Longer than we expected, to be honest.
Perhaps, yes. But we're going back to the Pariah Nexus because the Adeptus Mechanicus want Blackstone. The Dark Angels are Dark Angeling because there's just so much Archaeotech super weapon fighting between the Necrons and the Admech, and the Dark Angels are also there. So we get the Deathwing Knights, which look as cool as we discussed last time. Nothing much really to say here. They look really cool.
Just now in HD.
Yeah, lots of different options, different head options. The helms are unique to them. I think they're not quite, they're similar to Grey Knight helms, but not quite the same. So I can respect that.
Well, they are Deathwing Knights.
They are indeed. The shields are also slightly different for them compared to the old Storm shields of yore. Granted, the current Terminator kit doesn't have Storm shields. They're much more like the Blade Guard veteran shields, these. But still, take the win. And they are very nice. You've got mace options. They don't have the old Doom flail they used to have, but...
Didn't they also used to have halberds?
No, that was a Grey Knight weapon.
Oh, I'm misremembering. Right, okay, my mistake.
So yeah, I think if I remember it correctly, the Deathwing Knights could have power sword, mace, or flail, and the Grey Knights was sword, halberd, hammer, or falchions.
Is it falchion or falchion?
Whatever, I'm not getting into pronunciation. But either way.
Either way, indeed. And also, can I just say, I called it in regards to the character, because it's Asma Die.
It is indeed Asma Die. I also want to admit on record, I completely forgot that Belial and Samael existed during the last episode, which is...
We all did, don't worry.
It's kind of a condemnation about how many characters the Dark Angels have and how much people are made to care about them. But...
Yeah, I think the only reason why people care about Belial was just purely because of his role in TTS where he kept going, Asriel. Yeah, that's literally it.
And Samael hasn't had a model since 3rd, so, you know. But yes, it is Asmodai, and he looks like an interrogator chaplain probably should. He's got a Crozius and a massive whack-off sword, because apparently he gets to carry 2 power weapons at once.
Well, in fairness, there was that old chaplain miniature that had a Crozius and a power fist.
Yes. That's going back a while.
And also, Asmodai did always have the power sword and Crozius as far back as 2nd, so...
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying that he's not allowed to do that. It's completely within his character and it's completely within his lore. It's completely fine. I'm not having a go. It's just like, you know, everyone else has to make do with 1 power weapon and he gets 2. But... Yes, one thing I do respect, though, is they've managed to give him customization of sorts in that, unlike, say, Lion or Azrael, who've got different head options where you can have them helmeted or not, etc., Asmodai always keeps his hat on, but you can take his hood up and down, which is a really minor detail. But more importantly, you can actually completely customize his backpack to either be spewing smoke or not. So if you want the cool painting challenge, you can have it. If painting smoke is your literal idea of hell, hello, then you can go without it. Because, like, painting wispy, gaseous smoke effects just does not seem like a good use of my time, so no. So I'm glad they've given you the option to not use it, because it's annoying.
Yes. And speaking of wispy stuff, but not so much smoke, more like timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly stuff, Orican the Diviner.
Yes, and it came back without Trazine. Boo.
Yes. He'll probably get a new model some way down the line. Oh, that's actually... That reminds me. Apparently, according to some leaks regarding the new Necron Codex, Anrakir the Traveller, Oberon, and Xandric are not in the Codex.
Massive boo.
They've been Xenost. They've been vected.
Massive
They've been
boo.
evected, as you will.
Indeed.
Yeah, it seems like Games Workshop's trying to just purge any remnant of characters made in Finecast.
Instead of just,
with the exception of Trazyn.
remaking them in bloody plastic, like they have with Orican.
Yeah, Trazyn's the exception, so that kind of suggests that he's going to get a new model down the line.
Indeed.
Especially with the success of his book.
Yes, indeed. But we're actually here to talk about Orican, and
yes,
it's really boring.
Like most Necron models. Hey!
Perhaps, but like, I don't know what it is, but I'm looking at this and I'm just bored. Like, I knew what Orican's face looked like. They can't change that. His staff is fine. He's holding a cube, which is more Trazine's thing because, you know, trapping things in multidimensional prisons.
And he has a tactical rock.
He has a tactical rock or tactical tail next to tactical rock. He's not even...
Sorry, I keep interrupting. I apologise.
No, it's fine. But what I think probably the most interesting about Orican is that he's actually left Cesarek on red.
Lol.
So the Silent King is like, you know, getting on with trying to really take the Pariah Nexus, but Orican's portents are so dire that he leaves Cesarek on red. And that's going to be interesting. You don't leave Cesarek on red.
No. But then again, currently, you know, Jarek's got a bit more on his plate right now, you know, considering Imhotep, you know, is leading, you know, a coup, essentially. Yes,
that is the new law. They are doing the Necron Civil War thing because, you know, the Silent King coming back could never just be everyone's happy as Larry. Immediately, Imhotep, who was the most powerful Pharaoh, decides, nah, this. So,
has anyone made an Imhotep heresy joke yet?
No, I haven't seen one.
Which is funny because you always see the Farsight heresy jokes or the Tauros heresy, but never something like this.
Ah, well.
Ah, well, never mind. And speaking of kings, jumping to Age of Sigmar briefly. Ursharan, the Mortarch of Delusion.
Flesh Eater Court actually got what I asked for.
A big chunky boy.
More than the big chunky boy. Actual units. Now, yes, we'll start with the big chunk. So, Ursharan is a Mortarch, same as Manfred von Carstein, Lady Olinda, Neferata, and Arkan the Black. Apparently he's not got a very good relationship with Neferata, but that's old stuff, beside the point. Anyway, he is huge. I don't think perhaps you realise until you actually see him in the pictures next to the Flesh Eater Court's army pictures with the Illumineth at the bottom of his preview screen, just how big he is. Like, most of the ghouls are about up to his knee.
If that.
If he was stood up straight, they'd definitely barely reach his knee.
Yeah, I'd probably say he's roughly Great Unclean one-sized, if I had to
Quite
guess.
possibly. I mean, I haven't seen one against, like, those sorts of models, but compared to regular enemies and regular units, he is towering. And Katakros, who is also, I think, a Mortarch, now that I think about it. Is he?
Everyone's a Mortarch.
I don't know if Katakros is now. No, he's not a vampire. He isn't. He styles himself as, but he isn't. So yes, Ursharan is huge. And with so many textures going on, because you've got the rotting ghoul flesh and loads of bone and cloth and flesh and metal, and it's a painter's wet dream if you can keep the sub-assemblies together. So it's a fantastic, fantastic miniature. Yes, yes, yes.
I just like the fact that apparently he was only made a Mortok just basically as to get him to leave. Nick Ashley was like, all right, fine, I'll make you a Mortok, fuck off, kind of thing.
It's a long... There is a lore article in Warhammer Community, which you're welcome to go and read. And one thing the writers actually had to say was, like, it's very difficult or tempting to fall into the trap of, look at these noble knights on crusade, and then everyone's been eaten in a bloody mess. That joke gets old after a while. So trying to find different ways to write the delusions of the Flesh Eater courts who do see themselves as noble knights and kings and chevaliers and all of that. It's interesting, and I really am now annoyed that I never got that Flesh Eater courts army, but also I know I never have the money for that Flesh Eater courts army unless I sell one of my elves, so maybe not.
Yeah, especially considering that there's a whole bunch of brand new Flesh Eater court models, like the Crypt Guard, who have nice big rusty swords.
Or axes.
Or axes. Or pole axes, rather.
Sorry, halberds. They're officially halberds, my apologies.
That's technically a kind of pole axe, isn't it?
I think so. But either way...
I'm probably pissing off some
what's good,
weapon nerd.
I think the one thing that's good...
Either way by Ive is currently the 285th
fuck?
most popular single.
Alexa, shut up.
So what the fuck was that?
I have a smart speaker next to my computer. It has never gone off before. Never. I don't know whether to cut that out or leave that in the edit because that's too funny.
Leave it in, fuck it.
So yes, what I was saying is, what they've done that I like is the Crypt Guard are not a replacement for the current Crypt Ghouls.
Ah, they're just an additional unit type.
Yes, they are an additional unit type, and they make that quite clear in some of the rules articles later in the week. They come under the Serf keyword, which affects Crypt Ghouls and Crypt Guard, and then there's Courtier keywords, Knight keywords, etc., where different units benefit from different delusions and so on. That said, the Crypt Guard look very, very good. They're a bit more uniform of face than you might actually be expecting, but if you're wanting to do Fallout Flesh Eater courts, then yeah, these are proper feral ghoul faces. So, yes.
And speaking of knights, can I just say I love the Morag Knights, riding giant zombie bats.
Yes, the Morag Knights are amazing. So, yes, I love these a lot.
They're great.
Actual ghoul fast cavalry is a great concept. And again, it's that power of that delusion that's powering them and thinking them as Pegasi or whatever it is they may be is just absolutely brilliant. So, yeah, I love the Morag Knights. They're great.
And speaking of the giant bat monsters, we have the Vargulf Courtier.
Yeah, so the Vargulf is an old miniature from the Vampire Counts range that just kind of awkwardly got shunted into Flesh Eater courts. Because it had nowhere else to go. So now they've actually properly remade it, and they've basically made it into a Wendigo.
Yeah, I can see that.
Which is a really interesting way of doing things, but it's, again, a great-looking model, topped off by the Abhorrent Cardinal. We saw the Judge last week for the ghouls, and now we've got the High Priests, as well as the Royal Decapitator. So, honestly, they've done an amazing job with refleshing the ghoul range. Fleshing. That wasn't even meant to be a joke, but it landed anyway.
Sure it wasn't.
But the range looks absolutely amazing. And they've topped it off with an army set, which is 20 Crypt Guard, a Vargulf, 3 Morag Knights, and the new Crypt Warden, Gore Warden, that's the one, Gore Warden, which is a good place to start you off with the new stuff, and means that for old Flesh Eater Courts players, you're not buying the same kits again, and for new Flesh Eater Courts players, you don't have to bother with the old stuff if you don't want to, such as Vargeists, Crypt Horrors, Ghouls, Terrorgeists, etc. You've got a full refresh of the army, as well as a complementary old range. This is how you do a range refresh. You don't take the old stuff out, but the new stuff slots in that it can be an army on its own. I'm looking at you, Primaris. But anyway, that's a separate problem. But no, honestly, the Flesh Eater Court stuff looks great. I wish I had the time and money to do my Fallout Flesh Eater Courts army so much, but I don't, and it's so annoying, but it's always going to be that project that's going to be there waiting for me in retirement or whatever else is going to sit there and go, Neve, do the Flesh Eater Courts army, do the zombies, do the ghouls, and it's like, yeah, okay. But it's always going to sit there, and one day, if I sell an elf army or I sell my Tau or whatever, then yeah.
You'll never sell your Tau.
No. Mind you, I had a game tonight before I came home from work against one of my colleagues, and oh my god, I'm getting so fed up with Tau this edition. I know they're not actually bad, like the World Championships and MetaWatch say they're dead down the middle, but my god, the way I play them, like, you know, I actually played full Mecha Tau today. I played Farsight Battlesuits and Devilfish transports. I even played a bloody Tired Wall shield line just to stop my Fire Warriors getting punked on turn 1. Do you know what happened? They got hit by 3 Dark Lances, the Tide Wall blew up, and I still got punked on turn 1.
Oh dear.
Also, Drakari having 18-inch range, strength 6 flamers. Just fuck off. Just fuck off with 18-inch range, strength 6 flamers. Just do one. Anyway, sorry.
I was going to make a joke, and speaking of things I can fuck off, cruel boys, we don't give a fuck about them. Anyway, but that's probably a bit cruel of me. I just really don't like cruel boys.
Hey.
I just don't like them. I think they're horrible designed miniatures. Like, they're not... Sorry, that's very bit cruel of me to say, no pun intended.
Twice.
But they're not badly designed, it's just that as a type of orc, I don't like... They're too Tolkien.
I hear you.
Like, if these were like for Lord of the Rings games, or for Middle-earth games, these would be great. They just look too Tolkien for Age of Sigmar.
And I think it would also be fine if these were the only style of orcs in Age of Sigmar. Like, you have the direct contrast between 40k orcs and AOS orcs. But they're not. I enjoy
No,
that.
I agree with you with that, yeah.
Because the models here that we're referring to, Dagok's Stab Lads, are actually really, really nicely designed miniatures. The boss is a bit bland, but then you've got 1 million Shanks McGee. We've got the most badass horn you've ever seen, and Man with Flail. It's actually quite a good warband. So the models are actually very good. They just, you're right, they're not Warhammer orcs, and they don't really fit as Warhammer orcs. As an ongoing critique of the Cruel Boys. There's nothing wrong with the models. They're nicely designed. They tell a cohesive plot, all of that.
It just feels like someone just took a bunch of Uruk-hai molds and just plopped them in Age of 7. Oh, there you go, new army.
Kind of. Speaking of taking old molds, changing them around a bit and plopping them in a new army, Assault Marines for Heresy. They took the old kit, turned it into Mark 6, and then gave them new jetpacks. And now it's in Heresy.
And they're in plastic.
And plastic. But Assault Squads are already in plastic.
Yeah. But these are Mark 6 Assault Squads. Ooh.
They are. And they are incredibly boring. But, you know, they're Space Marines. What were you expecting?
But I tell you one thing I am happy about being released in plastic. The Tauros. Which was an Elysian drop troop vehicle back in the day.
You see, the first time that I read about this, I got confused with the Taurox, which I felt very...
Yeah, it's an easy mistake to make. Taurox, yeah. I know, it's an easy mistake.
Is it the same chassis?
I don't think so, no, because the Taurox is more like that's more of a van. This is more of like, you know, a doom buggy.
Oh yeah, of course. The Taurox has treads at the back, doesn't it? Not wheels. Yeah, shut me up.
It has 4 sets of treads, which looks stupid.
This has 8 wheels.
Better if it had 4 massive wheels. Yeah, this has wheels. Yeah.
No, it's not 4. It's 8.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Actually, it's 10, isn't it?
Yeah. Sorry, it's a 10-wheeler.
Yeah. But I'm talking about in regards to the Taurox. Taurox had like 4 mini tank treads, and they look so stupid. It would look better if it had just a big monster truck wheels. But anyway, I digress.
So yes,
new Tauros. It looks great.
Yes, so this is a transport for the... Well, not transport. More like, you know, what am I saying?
Fast attack vehicle.
Yeah, fast attack vehicle. That's what I'm looking for. The Taurus Venator for the Palanite Enforcers. So, you know, heavy stubbers or concussion cannons. Great name.
Yeah.
And also considering it's law enforcement, like concussion cannons is a great choice for a weapon, like, thematically.
Absolutely.
Never mind, like, the idea of just sonic boom the gun.
Can we also take the time to appreciate the fact that because it has the dedicated gunner rule, it also can move and shoot while moving at top speed? Yes!
And speaking of top speed, the one thing that got Rem looking at this preview at top speed was the next thing.
Night Lord's guillotine, yes.
And I tell you what, as someone who has used the Legionaries kit multiple times for Chaos Marines and has many copies of it from the Warhammer Club Chaos Army, they've done a really good job of making this not just feel like an upgrade sprue. It feels a lot more than an upgrade sprue, and that takes
it is
some
an
doing.
upgrade sprue, but it does, yeah, as you say, it looks so much more.
Yeah, like, you can see, like, the shell of the Legionaries kit, absolutely, but just, like, it's not like... take the missile launcher guy. All they've done is a head swap, really. It's just a head swap. But the Aspiring Champion, it's a head swap, a new chain glaive power sword thingy, and a new cloak. That's all new. Lightning claws, or whatever those are, I'm assuming they're lightning claws, but there's only 2 of them. That's new. The head swap there's a new shoulder pad for the lightning claws guy. There's a new icon bearer carrying a corpse around because it's the Night Lords, of course they do. We've got chain glaives, we've got poison knives, custom scoped pistols. They've done a really good job with this sprue of making them look unique as Nemesis claws.
Mm. Oh, and speaking of Night Lords, very briefly diverging away, the Black Library Reader's Choice Awards, Lord of the Night won, ladies and gentlemen. We did it! Lord of the Night's getting reprinted. Yes!
Yes, it's a good week to be a Night Lords fan.
We eating well tonight, lads and ladies.
But who isn't eating well tonight is anyone who tries to go to Khemri, because they're the lunch. Oh my god, the Tomb King Necrolith Bone Dragon is the coolest fucking thing, and I love it.
Oh, one thing I did find out in regards to that, apparently one of the people who actually designed the model, they hate it. One of the designers hates it.
Why?
I'll try and find the actual thing, because it was something they posted to their Instagram. Hang on, I think here we go. I'll put a link to Twitter where I'll post a screenshot for people to view. But yeah, because this person, they designed the howdah / throne on top of the dragon, but they just didn't like the dragon as a whole. They just feel like, no, kind of thing. They just don't like it.
And they're saying it's a product that doesn't fit with the range and the lore. That's a bold statement to make as someone who works at the design studio.
I mean, I like the fact that the Bone Dragon has like a very crocodilian head, because that's, very thematic for like, an ancient Egyptian themed army, because, crocodiles were a big thing, Nile River and all that. Mm-hmm. I think it might have worked better if it was like a drake rather than a dragon. It didn't get rid of the wings, because I don't know how you're going to make that fly without any membrane, but they can magic. It can do what we don't have to explain shit.
Yep.
But I think it would look better if it was like a dragon that looked more like just a giant crocodile kind of thing, rather than actually giving it wings.
The biggest challenge with the Tomb King's range that they have is that a lot of their big stuff is not zombies or skeletons. A lot of their bigger units are like the Necrosphinx and the Khemrian War Sphinx. They're constructs. They're animated constructs. Think the Ushabti for another example. Most of the big stuff for Tomb Kings, you've got the Skellybobs, you've got the mummies, which are the kings, the queens, the priests, etc. And then you've got the constructs. The what?
Bone Giant. Which is basically a giant skeleton giant.
Yes, there is. Actually, there is.
Giant skeleton giant. That's a bit redundant.
But actually, hold on a second. I don't know when the last time that got... I think it was in Total War, but I don't actually know when the last time that got miniatures or rules. It was in Total War Warhammer 2, but...
Which will probably mean it'll get remade at some point for, the old world, let's be honest. If it's featured in the newest video game, they'll probably make a miniature of it for old world.
Oh, actually, it's not a giant.
Oh, is it not?
No. So to quote, I'm quoting Lexicanum here, so, take it with a teensy pinch of salt. It is essentially, it's a necrolith colossus, same thing. Meaning it consists of bones of desert creatures bound together with wood and metal, as well as the magic of Lich Priests. They have the strength, bulk, and speed similar to regular giants, but they are undead constructs, meaning they lack the wild, unpredictable nature of a living giant and simply obey orders.
Oh, there you go then.
So
Today I learned.
So yeah, they're actually constructs. They're made from bone. They're bone constructs, which is obviously slightly different to the Ushabti and the Necrosphinx and all of that, but they're not giant skeleton giants raised from the dead. And I think maybe that's what the designer's getting at, is that the Tomb Kings don't do this. This is what the vampire counts do. They raise giant undead dragons from the dead and use them as mounts, not the Tomb Kings. They build their own.
Well, there you go.
And actually, yeah, the more I look at it, those wings look... Actually, yeah, I don't like the wings now. I was like, this looks really cool. But then I look at it and I think taking the wings away and going with that almost saurian aspect rather than draconian aspect and keeping everything the same but taking the wings off even.
Again, make it a giant crocodile.
Yeah, and just give it a really high move stat to represent the fact that it's got great bounding leaps or whatever, and maybe give it that, and I don't know if they're going to have the aquatic rules back, I don't know, but make it go that way. I don't know. But I will say the Howdah looks really cool.
Oh, yeah. It does look a little bit crowded with things like, the additional bird and stuff like that.
But that's an optional thing if you build the Tomb Priest. If you just build the Tomb King, then it's fine.
Yeah, true. Because going back, I know I keep bringing up the crocodile idea, and all that, but like as a really, you can make a really good reference if you just look at real world creatures like extinct creatures rather. Because have you ever heard of a creature called Deinosuchus?
No.
It's basically the largest crocodilian type creature to have ever lived, essentially. It was something that would basically take on dinosaurs, if I recall correctly.
Looking at that skeleton reconstruction, I can see how. Yeah,
so, and considering, crocodiles were a big thing in, Egyptian/Kemrian mythology and all that, and, Tomb King lore, just make the bone dragon that, but bigger.
Yeah.
That, but bigger. And plus, the Howdah wouldn't look so unbalanced, because I think that's one other thing about the bone dragon. The Howdah looks a bit unbalanced because of how high the spines are along the back. It just seems like it's just balancing very precariously and just seems very top-heavy, about to fall over.
Yeah, I do. I see it. And I think it's also suffering from something that I thought Games Workshop had long since moved past, which is fantasy dragon syndrome. So I'm going to exempt the Dark Elf Black Dragon because that kit was made in 2012 and actually was pretty good. But if you look back at all the old dragons, I'm talking like Imric, Malekith, the Sisters of Twilight, all the old dragons, and also the Zombie Dragon got this right in the end because that kit was like 2014.
Yeah.
All the old Warhammer dragons were really squished because they had to fit on a square base and be able to crash into or be ranked up against, which meant that they couldn't have their wings spread. They couldn't be in a classic attack pose like Age of Sigmar miniatures often are. They had to be able to be charged, and that meant their bases had to be open to ranks and files being made around them. And until they did...
That also meant that their bodies also were very long snake line, just curved into S's, essentially.
Yes, exactly. And even when they did the Dark Elf Dragon, which I've got, and I adore that Dark Elf Dragon, even that, it gets around the problem by a ginormous tactical rock. And the Vampire Count Zombie Dragon, and to an even greater extent, the Terrorgeist, get around that problem by a dynamic pose with giant tactical rock. The Zombie Dragon is standing, almost. It's just sort of stood there. And the Terrorgeist is in a low-hanging scream pose, which allows its wings to go up, and therefore it can be ranked around. They came up with it toward the end, but this feels like it's really actually suffering from the limitations of the old world dragons.
Yeah, I was going to say that there was something similar with the old Galrock model as well. Like that got away with a bunch of basically having us pointing upwards at like a 45-degree angle as if it's like flying forward kind of thing.
Yeah. There were ways and means of getting around it, but it took them a very long time to get a set of designs that A, were not just carbon copies of each other, like the old elf dragons were, and B, were interesting to look at / work on versus just dragon. And I know dragon itself is cool, but when it's Warhammer Dragon, you kind of go one step beyond. And just think about all the draconic miniatures we've had in the past. I'm just going to go from Sigmar onwards and go from there. Think about, like, the Star Drake. Like, take the Stormcast Star Drake and compare it to this. Which one looks like it was made 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Or even 8 years ago when the Star Drake actually roughly came out. And I know that that's maybe being a little harsh, but I'm not massively wrong either. Yeah, Warhammer
especially when you compare it to something like, was it Vorgorath? You know, that Cornate dragon for Age of Sigmar from Forge World?
Yeah, the absolutely massive one, yes. Again, They did something really cool with that. Like, Stormdrake Guard, they're dragon riders. They've managed to make themselves look pretty interesting. Krondis and Karazai, the same. Dragons. But they've managed to make them look interesting and unique. It's just interesting that this feels like a step backwards.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Also, I never quite realised just how big Vorgorath was until I saw this picture of him right in front of a guy. Yeah, it's
an
very,
army
very
on
big.
its own. It's an army on its own.
Yeah.
Like I think when it came out, it was like 500 to maybe even 1,000 points on its own. It was the single biggest, most powerful model standalone in the game.
I don't even think you can get it anymore.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Oh dear. What else we got in the news? Because we have quite a lot to get through. We should probably try and...
We've got through the World Champs, so woohoo. Next on my stopping list would probably be Heresy, because they managed to release one very interesting and one very boring miniature this week.
Is that the Thousand Sun Librarian?
That's the interesting one, yes.
Oh, I thought you meant it's very interesting, but it's also very boring.
No, they've done a very boring one yesterday, which is the Dark Emissary.
Oh, the Sons of Horus Librarian.
Oh, is it actually a bloody librarian? I hadn't even clocked. I thought it was a consul.
Wasn't consul just like the heresy name for librarians? Because it's got Psychic Hood.
No, actually, it seems to not be a Psyker.
Is it not? Because you look at the back behind his head, that looks like a heresy-era Psychic Hood.
Yeah, I know, I hear you. So to ensure that his allies remain loyal during the heresy, he instated the Dark Emissaries, specialised consuls who acted as his eyes and ambassadors across the galaxy. Experienced warriors, paragons of skill and martial prowess, strategic experience. The word Psyker doesn't come up once.
I guess it is a chaplain then. Huh.
Yeah, I suppose.
That bit of a weird choice to give it the hood, though. Especially considering that they've been releasing a whole bunch of librarians as of late, haven't they?
They have, the Stormseer, for example.
The Thousand Sun one, and there was also another one before that as well, wasn't there?
Was there a Rune Priest? No.
No, there was.
Was there a Rune Priest?
I think there was a Rune Priest. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and then we had the Demonologist from a while ago, then they did a Loyalist Librarian Consul as well.
Yeah.
How odd.
Very odd. Very
But yes.
odd indeed.
So the Dark Emissary is boring. The Thousand Suns Librarian is beautiful. Like, I know the pose is really boring. I know it is. He's just standing there holding some prayer beads. But also, look at the armor and the extra details. Like, every single bit of this screams Prospero. You've got the scarab in the sort of a facsimile of the Aquila, which I find hilarious. The helm is gorgeous. The staff is more like is like the bloody top of the Tower of Sauron. Varadur, that's his name. I forgot his name for a second there.
It's basically a big mace.
Yeah, it's a slashy mace that's also a librarian staff, because the man doesn't need a librarian staff to focus his powers. He's just a fucking badass wizard man. He's got scrolls of power. We've got the cloak that's actually attached not just to his back, but to his elbow, and it's made very clear. So it's like style over function, which is a really different... You don't see that very often with Space Marines. Like, they've actually got the cloaks on their shoulders and then they're on their elbows as well.
It's the Ric Flair robe.
Woo!
He's styling and profiling.
So, yeah, honestly, I love this miniature. Much as it's probably quite boring to those who are not Thousand Suns fans, thematically and the way it's designed is just lovely.
Going briefly to Necromunda, we've also got some new hangers-on for Delac gangs. So
Rogue Doctor and a gang lookout.
Yes, I love the Doctor, the way he's just polishing his rusty hacksaw. It's like, yes, don't worry, this will hurt a lot, kind of thing.
Indeed. So yes, they can make an additional medical escort action at the end of every battle for free. It won't be for free. I don't know where that came from. Sorry. It's also supplemented with Ash Waste upgrades. The heads make them look like blooming psychos from Borderlands.
I mean, that's just Necromunda in a nutshell, let's be honest.
I mean, yeah, no argument, but still kind of cool. So yeah, upgrade stuff, backpacks, flasks, heads, all that. And then a bunch of tactics cards as well. So yeah, lots of really nice stuff for Delac, if you happen to play Delac. And finally, the Black Gobbo, but not really.
Oh yeah, the Christmas Gits or whatever.
The Grotmas Gits, Remleiz.
Close enough. Tomato, potato.
So yes, it's an interesting miniature of sorts. Like, you've got a giant cave squig type thing with a gob full of presents, including, and I have a huge amount of respect to whoever painted this, because bloody hell, they actually painted miniature boxes, like actual boxes of Warhammer in its mouth. Like, one's an AOS box and one's a Space Marines box, and I can tell from here it's a Space Marines box. Like, that's really, really, really impressive.
I saw someone saying on Twitter, they saw the tiny, tiny little Stormcast, and they just says, "Can we have an epic scale game for AOS?"
I mean, I wouldn't say no, but also you can see the Marines that are very much like, well, I'm using this reference because the Retribution retrospective is like previewing right now, but Captain Johnny, the Space Marine, like old school Space Marines as well. So they're just a lovely, lovely bit of paintwork by whoever designed this.
Absolutely.
And then they gave it rules just for fun.
Of course.
And
so
now
we've had the Black Gob. Does that mean we're going to get the White Dwarf?
We're not going to get Grombrindal. No, I think the Red Gobbo is kind of taking his place as Christmas mini now.
Yeah, and I think a bunch of people were kind of freaked out by the last Grombrindal mini we had. Do you remember when he was the tech priest with the
Red
Gobbo servitor? Yeah, yes. That was creepy as hell. I was like, ugh. Like, I know 40k is supposed to be grimdark, but Jesus, guys, tone it down.
So yes, Ram mentioned earlier that Lord of the Night won the 40k Reader's Choice. The fantasy one was actually Riders of the Dead, which means that the fact that there were 3 elf books there, the elves came 3rd, 4th and 5th respectively. Enough said. It's also worth noting that on the 9th of December, there is a Black Library celebration preview. So you'll get to see lots of book discussions in the next episode.
Yes. Also, I just love the fact that with Lord of the Night, it was a fucking landslide for it. 37% of the total vote. Fucking landslide. Well done, everyone. I knew I could count on you guys.
And Faith of Fire came second, despite the fact you can buy it in 2 episodes of White Dwarf.
And it was recently part of a special edition, wasn't it?
I think so. I mean, if it weren't for Lord of the Night, my vote would have been Gunheads, but that's just because I never got to read it and I know it's Golgotha.
I just got to say, poor Crossfire, man.
Yeah.
Everyone Everyone always shits on the RBT series. Everyone always shits on it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And that's realised that the Scourge the Heretic was the Dark Heresy tie-in novel.
God. God.
That's going back a while, isn't it? Not as far back as Lord of the Nights. That's from like 2005. That predated Horus Rising. Only by a year.
Jesus Christ. But yes, so I just want to flick through a couple of bits in different places, just because there was a couple of news articles. I've read a lot more news this week than I normally do. And I don't know why, but I just have. So I read over the Old World Almanac, and oh my god, the combat math. Combat math is back.
Combat math? Oh god.
So, you know, obviously, like, you used to have to work out your ranks and charge bonus, flanking bonus, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, this is how many things you have to work out. You get 1 point for every unsaved wound, 1 point per rank, 1 point for having a standard, 1 point for a battle standard, a point if you're in the flank, 2 points if you're in the rear, 1 point if you're on high ground, 1 point if you per excess wound of overkill you caused if you wiped a unit, and then just other bonuses as applicable. Like, there's so many things to count to work out combat result. Also, initiative skill is back. The weapon skill roll to hit chart is back. And I had to explain this to someone at Warhammer Club the other day. Like, I think they were a Dark Eldar player. Yeah, they were a Dark Eldar player. Like, why Dark Eldar was so annoying in previous editions. And I use the example of Lelith Hesperakh. So,
oh god, yeah.
Lelith Hesperakh in the old edition was about initiative 9 and about weapons skill 9. Meaning that she always went first, always hit you on 2s unless you were literally like weapon skill 5 or above, which no basic unit and very few elite units actually had. And also, you were always hitting her on 5s unless, again, you were like weapon skill... God, what would you have to have been to hit weapon skill 9 on...
6?
No, you go as 5s or 6s, but you'd have to be, again, like weapon skill 5 to be hitting her on 4s, or weapon skill 7 to be hitting her on 4s. She was a nightmare to hit. And she just wiped units out. And because of the initiative step rulings, Dark Eldar could charge their entire army in, hit you with their entire army at weapon skill 5, and you just have nothing left to hit back with. Especially if you were like Necrons or Orcs, where your entire army was initiative 2. Like, something that I feel I actually miss in the 40k and AOS Yugo-Igo system, while I've got nothing against the system, it works and it's smooth and it's clean and it's efficient, is actual glass cannon units that are designed to hit hard, hit fast, and not take hits. You can't play armies like that because of the Yugo-Igo system. You can't do it. You have to play a different style because you know that if you do that, at least one of your units will die before getting to make its hits. In the old system, you know, elves were, well, they had always strikes first, or they were initiative 5, so they usually went first. Dragari, initiative 5, always went first. Pretty much, unless you were like fighting demons or something. Slanesh, initiative 6. Made up for being unable to take a hit for shit by being like initiative 6. Khorne got around the problem by being like weapon skill 5 base. It was just such a unique system. Well, maybe not unique, but good system that rewarded you for putting your units in the right place.
It's going to be a very cough-heavy episode today, isn't it, for both of us?
Yes, sorry. It's also worth noting they've slightly changed the morale system, which I am curious as to whether people will like it. So, it's not quite as arbitrary break or not roll. So, if you have a leadership test, you have your leadership and your modified leadership. So, let's say you lose a combat by 3 wounds. Like, you've taken 3 more wounds than your opponent, so you lose by 3. Your leadership of 8 becomes 5, right? In terms of whether you pass your morale check or not. So, the idea was you used to have to roll 2d6 and roll your leadership or below. That's how a leadership test works. But you had to subtract the amount of modifiers from your leadership, in this case 3. So if you roll less than or equal to your modified leadership, you hold in combat. But in the old system, that just meant you stood there. In this system, you have to give ground, which is in the blooming other morale article. What does it do? Where's the old word almanac gone? There it is. So what that means that you have to do when you give ground is you basically just back up a little bit. You step back 2 inches, meaning that the combat actually ends unless your opponent chooses to follow you in. So you can actually have your opponent slowly advance forwards by gently edging you out in combat, or you can disengage and your opponent is given the option to disengage from a grind if they can't be asked with staying in that grind because they know it's a grind. They've just got to win combat once. Then there's if you fail the leadership check, but you would have passed it normally. So you roll like a 7. So you failed on leadership 5 because your modified score is higher than your leadership, but your natural leadership test would have been a pass. What you do is you fall back in what's called good order, meaning that you only fall back D6 instead of 2D6 and automatically rally and reform, meaning that you have no risk of what we used to call in 40k a sweeping advance, where your opponent could just run you down and kill you.
Yeah.
But if you fail your natural leadership, you have to run away, and if your opponent tries to, they can run you down and destroy your entire unit.
Yeah.
It just adds another layer to combat damage.
It's an interesting change, yeah.
Like, I don't know how much fantasy you played and how much fantasy you remember, but...
I mean, I just remember the break and flee thing. I don't remember anything like fall back and go or give ground.
No, because they're both new.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was either you fled or you held, and which meant that if you lost a combat by 1 and then had an unlucky high roll, you lost your entire unit sometimes. Whereas here, if you lose a combat really badly, you've taken a mauling, but you roll okay, actually, you're not going to lose your entire unit. You might just have to give a bit of space, but you still rally, and if your opponent chooses not to, that's the combat over, if you so desire.
I wonder if they're going to reintroduce the rule, like, if you lose a combat to a fear-causing unit that outnumbers you, because, like, in, like, say, 5th edition, which is the edition I played the most, if you lost a combat to a fear-causing unit that outnumbered you, you automatically broke. Like, you didn't have to roll a leadership test. You fled automatically. Which is it was a very common tactic. Like, with Skaven players, they would have, like, a big unit of, like, 50 clan rats and give them the dread banner, which makes the unit cause fear.
Yeah, so fear, in the end of fantasy, was just, like, a leadership test to strike normally or something. They've actually explained what fear does here. So what fear does is you must pass a leadership test to charge. And if you're already in combat and you fail a leadership test, you're at -1 to hit. And terror, if you get charged by a terror-causing unit, you must pass a leadership test or you automatically flee. And it also immediately applies a -1 penalty to leadership when taking a break check. So if you've got a terror-causing unit, then your opponent is basically at effective -1 leadership, and they're much more likely, therefore, to be falling back in good order rather than holding and giving ground to you.
Right.
Also, they put the Shaggoths rules up, just for fun, and the list of special rules is very long, and that's great. So, movement 7, weapon skill 6, ballistic skill 2, strength 6, toughness 5, 6 wounds, initiative 4, 5 attacks, leadership 9. Overall, pretty bloody good. Armor Bane 2, Armored Hide 2, Close Order, Enter-Celled Weapons, Immune to Psychology, Large Target, D3+1 Stomp Attack, Storm Call, Terror, and the Quickening Storm all are different special rules.
Oh.
So, Armor Bane 2 means it ignores 2 armor when attacking. So it's like Rend -2 for newer players. Armored Hide 2 will probably be +2 to its save stat, or it will have a natural 5+ save from its Armored Hide, kind of like the Lizabend's old Scaly Skin rule. Close Order's about its ranking. Enter-Celled Weapons means magical attacks, which means it can hit units like what would be classed as Nighthaunt these days, ghostly units, ethereal units, that kind of thing that would normally not be hittable without magic. Immune to Psychology, can't take fear and terror or leadership checks. Can't take fear or terror checks. Can break, but can't take fear or terror checks. Large target, useful for targeting. Stomp attacks, that's an old rule that units used to have, kind of like was become monstrous rampages in AOS. Terror, and then 2 unique abilities to it.
Oh.
And Frenzy is also back, which is funny because Plague Censer Bearers and Dwarf Slayers immediately spring to mind. I'm sure.
But will this version of Frenzy just be +1 attack, or is it double attacks?
It's +1 attack and immunity from fear and terror.
Right. Because I remember back in the day it was like double attack. So a good thing to do is like, if you have a Frenzy unit with Frenzy, give them additional hand weapons, which is +1 attack anyway, and then you double it with the Frenzy so they get 4 attacks a turn.
Nasty.
It was nasty with Witch Elves, especially.
Witch Elves were bollocks.
Yeah, they were. Especially considering that they could actually have Dark Elf Assassins in the unit as well.
Oh, yeah. And Witch Brew. And poison weapons.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, the Assassins also got double attacks from the Frenzy as well, because they were part of a Frenzy unit.
And Dark Elves all had Hatred, which was just flat rerolls to hit all the time.
Yeah. So I remember when the Hatred rules for Dark Elves was literally just hates High Elves, but then they changed it in later editions to hates everything.
Yeah, so what it was is they got hates everything, but especially hates High Elves. So the rule was called Eternal Hatred, meaning they had hatred everything, but against High Elves, their rerolls were even better. I think Hatred is just rerolling ones, whereas against High Elves, it was rerolling everything.
Yeah.
So yeah. Fantasy.
They were so broken when they introduced that rule. They were such a broken army. So I remember
7th edition, that was.
They were so fucking broken.
As I recall, that was the Gav Thorpe edition.
Thanks, Gav.
I think. Well, he piloted them in the battle report. I'm pretty sure of that, at least. Because that was the second White Dwarf I ever owned.
Fair enough.
So yes,
Thanks,
lots
Gav.
of fun stuff for fantasy, honest to God. As much as I know no one will play it with me, God, I want to play fantasy again. This is like just... And we talked about this last episode with Wib, just it's ticking all of those like nostalgia, but also tactical thinking boxes that I have kind of missed from 40k, where it's like, oh, did you have a bad shooting phase? Oh, I guess you lose then. Because that's what my Tau army's like. It's like, literally, oh, your first shooting phase didn't wipe out your opponent. Guess you'd best die then. And that's literally how it goes, and it's so tilting.
Oh, and moving away from fantasy, going back to Horus Heresy very briefly, there's a brand new piece of Horus Heresy DLC, which is for the, oh god, what was it? Fucking forgot the name of the battle.
Is it the exemplary battles thing from today?
Yeah, it's a battle involving the Raven Guard. Where is it? It's,
Constanix 2.
Yeah, Constanix 2. Yeah. And I tell you what's bullshit about this, because this is like, it's based on a battle from the Corax novel, as in the Corax Horus Heresy novel, not the Primarch novel. They didn't include the bit about the invisible Warlord Titan. It was like, bullshit. That was like the best bit about that fight. It's like, oh yeah, the Raven Guard just hijacked a Warlord Titan and made it turn invisible. A stealth Warlord Titan. They creeded it, essentially. And it's not referenced. It's like, no, just AdMech, or Dark Mechanic, and whatever you want to call it. Fuck it. It's got AdMech for short, for easier. But no stealth Warlord Titan. Bullshit. I want my invisible Titan.
Yeah, there's only one mention in the entire article of a Titan, which is a Warhound Scout Titan. So, yeah, doesn't mention it at all.
Bullshit. I think that's pretty much it for the major things. I mean, there's some stuff about Blood Bowl cheerleaders being put back on sale for a limited time.
Yeah, there's Flesh Eater Court's Rules and Law, which was where I got that whole thing about some of the lore about Usheran from. In fact, I'll open it back up and just check I haven't missed anything.
And there's some like Middle-earth miniatures that are being re-released in clear plastic, which is kind of cool. I'll admit.
They actually look quite nice.
Yeah. I wish they did more stuff like that for like the Nighthaunt, for example. Can you imagine a Nighthaunt army that's released in translucent plastic? That looks so cool for them, I reckon.
Agreed.
It would just be a pain in the ass to paint. Because I can imagine the details being so washed out, and it's translucent that I can't fucking see what I'm painting, kind of thing. But it would be nice. It would be nice.
Yeah, sorry. Oh yeah, that was the thing about the lore of like how to write the different delusions, because it's tempting to play the same joke over and over. So here's a couple of examples of Flesh Eater Court's lore you might find funny. So, right. The gristlegore Grand Court perceive themselves as monastic pacifists who have achieved a spiritual harmony with the realm of beasts.
What?
Yep. Meanwhile, in the Gnarlwood, we have Peregrine the Choleric pursuing his nemesis, the warlock Zaragul. The minor detail that he doesn't actually exist hasn't stopped all sorts of havoc.
Oh dear.
Oh, and also Varshawn, the guy from Broken Realms Teclis, who rebelled against the Ossiarch and allowed Teclis to beat Nagash all that time ago in the Broken Realms arc.
I didn't hear that because you got out for me.
So, in Broken Realms Teclis, the Ossiarch have sort of co-opted a Flesh Eater Court who live in Hysh, and at a very critical juncture, the abhorrent Ghoul King goes, nah, fuck off. And turns on the Ossiarch against their tithe masters, as it were, shifting the balance of power a bit, throwing off the armies of death, giving Teclis enough time and, to not get his ass kicked too hard, meaning that Immetrica could come and save his ass, and Settlers Game could shoot Nagash with bloody 5 Luminarchs at once.
Whoops.
So yes, the Flesh Eater Courts that fuck Nagash over.
Fair enough.
So yes, Flesh Eater Courts are great fun, and Armies on Parade Award. We missed that.
Ah. I missed that completely, yes.
So yes, I will show you the gold... Actually, I'll just edit the article and you can have a look at any you wish to comment on as you go. So, there were several categories. 40k, AOS, Leviathan, The Rest, and Judge's Choice. The Judge's Choice are the only ones that are actually vaguely interesting.
Right, okay.
So
Let's have a look at the Judge's Choice then, in which case...
So, there's a massive Crimson Fist army in silver in 40k, which I can respect. And actually, the bronze is very interesting for its background, because you can see like the Emperor doing his best Mufasa impression, watching over the Ultra Smurfs, except Gilliman is there. So yeah, Leviathan's got some interesting.
Sorry, which one was that? Sorry,
bronze 40k.
Oh, I was looking at Judge's Choice. My mistake. Right,
sorry, I'm just scrolling down. I think the most of the interesting stuff is in Judge's Choice, but there is some like well-painted stuff higher up.
That picture of the Emperor looks very familiar. I swear I've seen that artwork around.
It's probably not custom. It won't be custom, but it's still cool. Leviathan stuff's fine. There's a nice snowy, spooky Soulblight that won silver in AOS.
That is
and
nice.
Snowy Lumineth that won bronze.
Is that Archaon?
It's converted from Archaon with a side order of Sigvald.
Right, I was going to say, hang on, that looks like Archaon's mount.
It's Archaon's mount, but it's Sigvald's head, chest, shield, and sword.
Right.
Well, not shield, I think it's a different shield. But yeah, that's a great conversion for a Vampire Lord. Also, I think Be'lakor is also there.
So he is.
So, some great conversions there, I have to say. Best of the Rest has some Middle-earth, quite cool-looking Space Hulk diorama, which I can get behind.
Mm-hmm.
Bronze is just some Legionaries Astartes, it's just some Heresy Death Guard, it's fine.
Yeah.
And then Judge's Choice, most sporting, Dungeon Bowl.
Hey, nice.
This looks sick as hell.
It does.
A 12-year-old who painted Moomakill better than most adults.
Fucking hell.
The most atmospheric, called 2 Minutes to Midnight, set in a very gothic, Mordheimy looking town.
I do like that one.
Spirit of Chaos for a paganistic beastmen summoning circle.
Oh yeah, they got a full-blown hearthstone there, yeah.
And bloody hell, look at the most original composition where they've managed to create Warhammer
Holy
art
shit.
out of Armies on Parade. What the fuck even is?
Oh my god, they got some of the original, like the old Chaos Warriors from 4th edition in there as well.
But you know what the best part is? Is that the models are literally coming out of the picture. So, like, look at the banner of the Knights. How the back half of it is is the painting, and then the front half is coming out of the page. It's so fucking cool.
It is. It really is. Again, I'm just more impressed by the fact they got the old 4th edition Chaos Warrior plastics in there. It's like fucking hell, nostalgia trip.
Just a little. And then you've got Golden Squig, and then Bellacor's prize for ultimate ambition, which is, I'm guessing, a Skaven thing. Like, it's basically sort of mini Skaven Blight, but it's not Skaven Blight because it's a bloody forge. I need to get a closer look at this bloody image because I can't even tell
Necrons.
what. Is it Necrons?
It's Necrons.
Oh, it's Necrons. Jesus, I couldn't even tell. You can't even see the models on it half the time.
I can just make out accounts like Wraith and the transparent plastic for the Gorse rifles.
But yes, cool as hell. How big is your parade?
It's like the size of a small country, apparently. And you got someone with some Aeronautica stuff.
A nice mix, actually. You've got Aeronautica planes, a full-size Valkyrie, Knights, Sentinels, Guardsmen, the Lord Solar. It's a nice way of showing all the aspects of the Astra Militarum.
It is, yeah.
And I can very much respect the fact that, look at the Valkyrie. Now, this is in reference. Do you recall there was, when the Valkyrie got redone, an Apocalypse datasheet for a Katakan Valkyrie where the Sponson gunners were replaced by crack snipers?
Vaguely?
And I remember it, and I don't know why I remember it, but I do. And I always remember that the front of the Valkyrie had like a Jaws pattern on the front of it. So it just reminded me of that, and it's a righteous reference. It's not a reference done by the artist here, but I remember it. So.
Oh, I also just noticed they got the Warhammer Plus Vindicare in there as well. Near the top of the building.
Oh my god, that just looked like ornamentation. That's so clever. Well done. Well done. So yes, that's Armies on Parade. There's some really cool shit, as always.
And also, because it's now at the time of recording, 1st of December, Games Workshop are now doing their Advent engine. So, a few weeks rather, of rumour engines. And the first one is Feathers.
Yep.
New Razor Wings? Possibly, I don't know.
Korax Corrupted. That was the most out there suggestion.
Who knows?
So yes, we shall see.
I think that's pretty much it of everything at note now.
I agree.
Right. I guess it's time for me to start talking about the end of the Death Part 2 then, isn't it?
Right. I've got my chocolate fingers. I've got my cider. It's alcohol free. I am in for story time. Let's cook.
You got your cider. You really are from Yorkshire, aren't you?
To be fair, it's bloody Aldi cider, so it's not exactly Yorkshire.
Oh, God. Fucking Aldi.
Don't make me laugh when I've got a cough. But yes, it's Aldi cider. But yes.
Right. So yeah, consider this your spoiler warning because the book is still brand new. But then again, you probably already know the spoilers because everyone will just read them anyway. But yeah, entering the spoiler room brawl in 3, 2, 1. Fucking hell, CM Punk really did go back to WWE confirmed anyway.
Indeed.
God. Who would have thought that bridge would have been mended? But anyway, I digress. So before I get into it, I just want to say this book, I've only gone halfway through, so I'm not going to tell you the entire story. But already, we're having the same problems we did with part 1. There is so much needless fucking padding. You might as well call these two books fucking Wonder Bras with how fucking padded they are. Like, there is so much repetition and bullshit in this. Like, you can cut entire chapters out and nothing would affect the plot of the actual story, I feel. It's... like, I discussed this with Oculus the other day, and he made a very good point, saying, like, there's not enough material in these books for 3 novels, but there's just too much for 2, kind of thing. And yeah,
I hear you.
So like the first 2 chapters, I feel like I could be proven wrong later on in the book. I don't know, but the first 2 chapters, I feel you can completely cut them from the book and it would not affect anything. Because the first chapter is not on Terra, it's on Ulfway. And
wait, what?
Whole point, first point in chapter 1, we're on Ulfway. Oh, the Harlequins have turned up on Ulfway. It's the first time anyone's seen a Harlequin since before the fall. Oh, they're dancing, and a whole bunch of Eldari from like the Craft Worlds, the Exodites, even the Drukhari are turning up to watch because it's like, oh shit, it's fucking Harlequins. We haven't seen them in fucking centuries. And it's like, oh, and Eldra's like, oh, they're dancing the dance of death, and Drukhari goes, no, it's the dance of the end and the death. Roll credits, and it's like, I don't know if the Eldari are being touched upon later, but for me, it just seems like you could just cut that chapter out completely and it would not affect the story whatsoever, to be honest. The second chapter, we're on Mars, and Fabricator General, I forgot his fucking name. Who was the trade fabricator? That's it, Kelbor Hal. Yeah, I just forgot his name. But yeah, he's just like, things are going well. Oh, the clocks have stopped. I'm going to scream now. It's like, okay. I think you could cut that chapter out and it would not affect the pacing whatsoever. Because, like, in regards to the whole repetition thing, you know how with Avenging Sun, I complained that Guy Haley introduced something in chapter 2 and didn't touch upon it again for like another 20 chapters?
Yep.
This book goes way too far in the other direction. Like, we're being told the same information, not only every chapter, but sometimes 2 to 3 times a chapter. Oh, the clocks have stopped. The geometry's changed. The clocks have stopped. The geometry's changed. Like, yes, Dan, we get it. Can we just carry on with the fucking story, please?
I think one of the challenges with The End and the Death, because of what it is, it's the finale. And I know there's a fucking part 3 now, but the fact that it is what it is, you feel like they have to wrap everything up. And because they have to wrap everything up, that means a million plot threads need to be resolved. And because a million plot threads need to be resolved, they feel like they have to touch on every single point and make sure, do you get it? Do you get it?
Yeah,
I don't think I've told you enough times. Do you get it?
I understand that, but again, this is not just different points we're being reiterated. It's the same 2 over and over again. Literally the same 2 pieces of information we're being given. Like, again, as I said, it's literally the clocks have stopped, the geometry's changed. It's literally just those 2 bits of information over and over and over again. And it's like, for the first half of the book, we're walking, we're not getting anywhere. You know why we're not getting anywhere? Because the geometry's changed and the clocks have stopped. It's like, for fuck's sake. Right.
Right.
I just want to preface this now that so far this book, it's not bad per se, but as far as the Siege series is concerned, that all this padding and repetitive bullshit is really harming it. Again, there's several things you can cut from this book and it will not affect the plot whatsoever. But anyway, I digress. Oh, fucking hell, that was a big bang. Oops.
That was loud.
Apologies, headphone users. I'll try and mute that a little bit in post, but yeah.
Loud.
You and your I'll decider. Anyway. I was like, yes, so Traitors are fighting, they're advancing, they're breaking through the walls, blah blah blah. Sanguinius is on the Vengeful Spirit, as we all know from last time. He's fighting his way through, along with a bunch of Blood Angels following him supporting him from behind. He's just absolutely slashing his way through the Sun Swords, beating the ever-loving shit out of them. But the wound in his side that Angron inflicted on him is slowly getting worse and worse. And Sanguinius starts wondering to himself, well, I know I'm destined to die, but is this how I'm going to die? Is Horus killing me actually the result of him using Angron as his weapon to kill me, and I just die slowly, because that would suck.
That would indeed suck.
But they end up finding their way to what they believe to be the door to Horus's throne room, or the bridge, or whatever you want to call it.
Or what should be, because bear in mind the Vengeful Spirit has been fucked up to fuck by the warp at this point, so it's probably not where they think they are.
Indeed. Also, I do want to point out, I'm not going through chapter by chapter, I'm just talking about certain characters because it's all disjointed, so we touch on side characters, some chapters, and then come back to them a few chapters later, but I'm just going to focus on specific characters just for the sake of ease.
Mm-hmm.
So Sanguinius, he ends up, trying to open the door won't open. He starts getting shot out by a dreadnought that's got 2 assault cannons. It's like, yeah, just take my spear. Whoop, psh, thank you, fuck off. Right, get my spear back, thank you. Right, I'm going to use the spear to try shimmy open the door. Kids, can you get them off my fucking back while I do this? Thank you. Jimmy open. Right, aha, I cracked it open. I'm pulling open the doors. I'm going inside. Don't worry, follow me, lads. Oh, the door's just closed behind me.
Shit.
Oh, well, never mind. He's walking around, and he sees a bunch of coffins. A whole bunch of coffins. And each coffin's numbered. And he sees one that's got the number 9 on it.
His.
As you know, Sanguinius is 9th Legion and all that. And he hears a voice coming out of the darkness. Hello, brother.
Hello, Horus.
No. Hello, Ferrus Manus. Yeah. You weren't expecting that.
Why do I have the urge to head desk?
Do you remember the novel Vulcan Lives?
I am conceptually aware of the novel Vulcan Lives.
Do you remember how in that book Vulcan was effectively haunted by the ghost of Ferrus Manus?
Loosely, because that's what TTS nicked the idea from.
Yeah. Yeah. It's basically that again. And Ferrus... Ferrus and Sanguinius talk, but Sanguinius believes it's just, a trick by Horus or whatever.
Which you would.
Ferrus... Yeah, understandably. So Ferrus just flat out asks him, do you trust me, brother? Sanguinius says, no. Yep. And Ferrus says, good. You shouldn't trust me. Because look where trust got me. I trusted Fulgrim, and now I'm dead.
Dear.
But he goes on to warn Sanguinius, don't give in to your emotions, because I know how you felt about Horus. I know you two were close, but I'm warning you, do not give in to your emotions.
When the time comes, kill him.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's the last we see of Sanguinius for the story so far. Again, I'm only halfway through the book, so...
The big fight's coming.
The big fight will be next episode, I'm afraid. Sorry. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the Vengeful Spirit, Constantine Valdor and his custodians are fighting for their lives against an unending horde of demons. They've only been fighting for about 45 seconds, but it feels like they've been fighting for literal weeks. Just this literally non-stop horde of demons, hack, slash. Oh, I think we found an exit. Come on, this way, lads. It's dead. It's a brick wall. It's a dead end. Fuck. This way. Let's slash. We've been fighting for about 49 seconds now. Don't worry. We are so fucked. About 3 of my custodians are dead now. We are so fucked. But we'll keep fighting. It's been 50 seconds now. Blah blah blah. Oh, there's a very bright light right at the end of the tunnel. It's making the demons shirk away. It's the Emperor and his custodians fighting their way through demons, going slash. And that's where we are so far.
Sorry, I need to say this because if I don't, the joke won't land. Well, at least we found one clock that hasn't stopped.
Hey! Rogel Dawn's been sitting in the desert for about 500 years. This is all an illusion, doesn't it, by the way? It feels like 500 years. And Khorne's whispering in his mind saying, give in, say blood for the blood god. And then Dawn just starts going, have you ever heard of Sun Tzu? He wrote this book back in MC. And
just pulls out the Art of War and tells Khorne to fuck off via the Art of War.
Yeah, and Khorne's literally getting so pissed. Was like, oh, just give in. You're boring me. It's like, come on. And Dawn's like, no, it's really interesting because if you do this and all that, and it's like, I am a god. And Dawn goes, oh, but there are no gods. Not even you.
I respect that so much. Like, that's TTS Dawn. Like,
Yeah.
clearly Dad has watched TTS and gone, how can I make Dawn so obnoxious that even Korn doesn't want to know?
Exactly.
Yes. I've read a good book by a man known as Sun Tzu. You should read. I can't do Burke's voice, but you know what I mean.
It's like, I am Korn. It's like, you are a vegetable, in which case. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Horus. He's still hallucinating about, was it Mercedes Ollerton? You know, the Remembrancer?
Yes,
or
I
was
do.
it Keeler? One of the two.
Keeler's the one who's become a saint. Aliton didn't.
I think it might have been. I think it might be Keeler. He's hallucinating about. I was going to say fantasizing, and that's the wrong word. That's
Very much wrong word.
That's a different book. That's an Ian Watson book. But anyway, you know how on the artwork, you got Horus's big throne, and then you got the other thrones with symbols of the Chaos Gods on them.
Yes.
It turns out those thrones are designed for Valdor, the Emperor, Sanguinius, and Dawn.
As in, they were originally the chairs that they would sit on when they came to visit, or
No.
Oh, wait, no, I get it now. So,
Horus basically wants them to basically become like, you know, the representatives of each Chaos God, essentially.
good luck flipping the Emperor.
Yeah, because the idea was for Sanguinius to fall to Nurgle because he's already, you know, rotting because his mortal wound. He's dying, so he's already rotting in a sense. And I feel Abnet's read the Dornian heresy because Sanguinius fell to Nurgle in that.
Quite possibly.
Quite possibly. Yeah, if so, nice little Easter egg, Dan. Well done. He wants Dawn to fall to Khorne because Dawn's got, you know, a temper, but he always keeps her under wraps. Well, as best he can. But he's got a very, very short temper. So he was like, just give in to your temper so you can go and smash things. Smash things, rather. He wants Valdor to fall to Tzeentch because Valdor is such an unchanging stickler for the rules. Like, you need to change. Get that stick out your fucking ass.
You see, I was going Emperor to Tzeentch's magic.
Yeah. That's because Valdor does not change. It's like, gotta change, you have a pawn who doesn't change. Have fun. That'll be fun to change.
Oh,
And
he's doing it to fuck the gods over, is he?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. And the Emperor can fall to Slanesh, so you can just enjoy your godlike power because you're so focused on ruling humanity and all the tedium and, you know, all the bureaucracy and all the bullshit. Just give in and enjoy your godly power. You know, that kind of thing. But that's where we are with Horus so far.
That would indeed be funny.
Indeed. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the Vengeful Spirit, Garviel Loken sneaking his way around because he climbed into the Vengeful Spirit from Terra. Don't ask, it's the warp.
I remember.
And he's sneaking around. He's like, what appears to be like a coolant tunnel, like a sewage pipe or whatever, just sneaking his way through. And all the water's been replaced with blood and viscera. Because of course it is. And he keeps hearing a voice calling to him. It's like, no, figment of my imagination. Then again, it could be Malkador trying to reach out to me. No, it's figment of my imagination. Just ignore it. Keep going. And then he hears his name again. He turns around, and out from the water, it's like, hi, I'm Samus. I'm going to fuck you up now, kind of thing. And that's where we are with him so far.
Well, yeah, Samus...
Samus is here.
But Samus probably... Unfortunately, Samus has a problem. He's a jobber.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the Dolph Ziggler of...
Oh no, he's not even Dolph Ziggler. He's a jobber.
Oh, a jobber? Oh, he's the James Ellsworth.
Yeah, he's an actor. Has Samus ever actually won a fight written in paper?
Who, sorry?
Has Samus ever actually won a fight that's been written by Black Library? Not just like his backstory of, he reaped 1,000 souls and skulls in order to gain his demonic...
I don't remember.
Has he actually ever beaten anybody?
I know he possessed Mercedes and Garvey was forced to kill Mercedes, but I don't know if that counts.
That's not winning.
No, but he did get a character killed, so does that count? I don't know.
No, I'm asking, did he win a fight?
No, not to my knowledge. I could be misremembering though, so if anyone does know, leave a comment down below.
I'm going to have a look. He possessed Xavier Jubal, but was then defeated.
Yeah.
Loken's beaten him once before.
Yep.
He appeared in the Battle of Calth.
Yep.
And then got killed by Remus Ventanus.
Mm-hmm.
Fun
fact about Remus Ventanus, he also became a member of the Legion of the Damned.
Yes, indeed. I remember hearing that.
Chapters due. The Uriel Ventress novel.
Also, it's worth noting that Loken didn't kill Mercialatin. Mercialatin killed herself.
All right, so I know Loken was there, so by proxy kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, he is genuinely not won once.
He's the Barry Horowitz. He's the Avatar of Cain.
He's the Avatar of Cain.
He's the Swarm Lord. Poor guys. Yeah, it's hard to take Samus seriously as a threat when he's never won a single fucking fight. I think that's a trap that a lot of writers fall into. They write up this big bad, but never have him fucking win. It's like, how can you take him as a threat? He never wins. This is why, most of the recent Mortal Kombat games have been so shit in terms of story, because, Cronika's such a big threat. Oh, she's a Titan of Time. Yeah, but she's never won a fucking fight.
That we've seen, no.
Exactly, so it's you can't take him seriously as a threat, because we as the audience know, she does not win.
See,
so she's not a threat.
The Tyranids. This is the problem with Tyranids.
Actually, in fairness, they did win Octarius.
That only happened in 9th, and it happened off screen.
Well, it didn't really happen off screen because it was the subject of a campaign book from 8th, actually, I think it was. Well, no, it was 9th. No, I'm mistaken, it was 9th. But it happened as part of a campaign book, a 2-part campaign book, so it doesn't really happen off screen. There was actually a book about it. So they did get a win, which is one more than Samus.
But it was against orcs in a campaign book nobody saw.
Even so, it's still one more victory than Samus has gotten.
This is true.
So therefore, the Nids are a bigger threat than Samus, confirmed.
Indeed. But, yes, anyway, so, Samus has appeared out of nowhere. Surprise, motherfucker. Now what?
Yeah, literally. We'll come back to that next time. What else? Meanwhile, there's a unit of the Imperial Army's troops, Loyalist Imperial Army, who are formed together from a whole bunch of different disparate units. They've arrived at the ruins of what they believe to be the Blackstone. The prison where Basilio Foe was kept. But it's not, but it is, but it's not at the same time. Wibbly-why meets warpy shit.
Yeah, the warp did it.
Yeah, and there's knocking inside the cells. They open up, there's nothing there. Open up all the cells at the same time. Knocking's coming from behind them now. Ooh, spooky. It's another example of a chapter so far, I feel like you could cut that story out and that chapter out and it'd be nothing changed in regards to the major plot points.
Yeah, I feel like the only way we're going to comment on this is just fucking padding is going to see if these plot lines pay off. Yeah,
exactly. Euphrates Keeler's leading her refugees and pilgrims into the waste. And they encounter a group of Sons of Horus. Keeler asks them, please let us pass, we are harmless refugees, blah, blah, blah. Sons of Horus now we're going to start killing you all. Obviously. And then Sigismund turns up and goes, come here, motherfucker, slice, slice. Big fight ensues between the Imperial Fists and Sons of Horus. We'll come back to that later. There's a lot of we'll come back to that later because that's so fucking disparate and we keep jumping back and forth, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, what else was there? Oh, yeah. There are whole sections of the Imperial Palace and Terra in general where it's just engulfed in warp fire. Literally, everything's just go whoosh. Purely because Malkador is slowly losing control of the Golden Throne.
Well, yeah, we knew he couldn't hold it.
No, we know that, but the fact that it's resulting in basically warp firestorms washing across certain parts of, the Imperial Palace and all, which is a huge deal. It's enveloping Loyalists and Traitor alike. And Volker's seeing this happen. He's hearing the reports that he's being given. It's right, we need to activate the contingency plan, which is feed Psykers into the Golden Throne to give Malkador a bit of a breather.
And so the tradition has continued to this day.
Exactly. So I appreciate the fact that that actually explains this is why the Emperor needs to keep control of the Golden Throne, because if he doesn't, that shit happens.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate that. However, some Night Lords get enveloped by the Warp Flame, but they don't get vaporized. They get teleported by mistake into the Sanctum Imperialis. It's like, ooh.
Oh, no.
And one of the Night Lords is actually Lucoriphus from the Night Lords trilogy, who's the Raptor, who was credited as being not only the first Chaos Space Marine to actually breach the walls, but also the first to make it inside the Sanctum Imperialis. So, like, first and first, yeah.
First and only, in this case.
Hey! Also, fun fact, Lucoriphus ends up one-shotting a custodian.
What?
Literally just flies past and cuts off the custodian's head with his lightning claw.
Jesus, that's terrifyingly impressive.
Yeah, it's like, damn. Yeah, Lucoriphus, yeah, my boy. But it should have been Joe Sahal.
Zoe Sahal's a
I just stop banging it. No, he's not. You're thinking of Fel Sarost.
Sorry, yeah. Sorry. Well, I read the little blurb about Lord of the Night, and it was like, Zoe Sahal is a completely changed Legion. It's almost like implying that the Legion was still loyal when he got put on ice.
No. The changed Legion was the fact that Comrade Kurz taught Sahal that fear is not the end goal. Like, you don't do it for fear's sake.
Yeah, it's a means to an end.
It's a means to an end, yeah. But most of the modern day Legion under Krieg Aesopus view fear as the end goal.
Yeah.
So, which is why they've changed. Like, man, you've changed. You've completely ignored Kurz's teachings. But anyway, different book. Different book. Back to this one. Alanius Pius and co. Kurz. No, so not Kurz. Vulcan was talking to Alanius Pius. Alanius Pius tried to convince Vulcan, look, we're here to help. Let us speak to the Emperor. Like, the Emperor's not fucking here. He's on the fucking Vengeful Spirit. Oh, can we speak to Malcador? Yeah, he's right there in that huge nimbus of light that will burn your retinas. Oh. Yeah, but we can help. It was like, we can help the Imperium. Yeah, this little spot in the Palace, this little spot right here, this is all that's fucking left at the moment, okay? So get the fuck out. Yeah. Like, just like, Khalida-san, please take these guys away. You know, throw them in the dungeons or something. I don't know, just get out of there. Fuck off. But yeah, so the Custodes, Khalida-san, and some Sister Science, they lead Alanius Pius, his crew away. But they keep walking past the same statue. Why do they keep walking past the same statue? Because the geometry's changed and the clocks have stopped. It's like, yes, Stan, we know. You don't need to keep repeating it 2 to 3 times a chapter. It's just going to be one of those pet peeves. Like, if you've read the book, you know exactly what I'm talking about in this.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you ever need to annoy Remleiz, just remind him about the clocks and the geometry in the comments.
Yes, because elsewhere during the battle, Space Marines or both sides, Imperial Army, they're marching through locations and like, hey, we've passed this bit before. We've passed this bit before. Hey, we passed this bit before. Why is that clock stopped? And it's over and over and over again. It's like, again, as I said earlier, you can cut so much of this book out and it would not change a fucking thing. What else is there? Oh yeah, Nasir Ahmed. Yeah, he's part of a reserve company who's not fighting at the moment because, like, they've been told, well, the traitors break through, we're going to need some people to, kick him in the dick.
and Nasir Ahmed is very good at that.
Yeah, because Nasir Ahmed's in charge of one reserve company, and another reserve company is led by a Space Wolf, and mostly comprised of Iron Hands, if I recall correctly. Yeah, it's like, didn't think the Iron Hands actually got to Terra, but turns out someone did. Never mind. But yeah, the Imperial First Praetor, who's in charge, basically like, right, here's our orders, and the Space Wolf just goes off and is like, where the fuck are you going? He's like, I'm going to fucking fight, kind of thing. It's like, no, get back in your fucking formation.
Accent.
Yeah. I don't know what accent it was. Like, I'm going to fight. I'm Drew McIntyre, kind of thing.
Oh, that's worse than Drew McIntyre. That's much worse.
At least he's not going on a motorbike. But anyway, I apologise to all the Welsh fans out there. But yes. Anyway, I'll stop doing different accents. But yeah, the Space Wolf and the Imperial Fist having an argument. The Imperial Fist say, get back in line. He's like, no, I'm going to fight. And the Sith Abbot just loses it. Says like, will you stop whining, you little bitch? Well, calls him a dog, but yeah.
Who's he shouting at? The Fist or the Wolf?
The Wolf.
Okay, good.
and the Wolf just looks at him and like, well, look at the brass balls on you, matey. And Amit's like, oh, sorry, Imperial Fist Predator, I didn't mean to speak out of line. But he was just pissing me off. And the Imperial Fist's like, I thought you Blood Angels were supposed to be disciplined. I expect that behaviour from the Wolves, but not the Blood Angels.
This is not the time for Legion stereotyping and internecine conflict. Have you noticed it's the end of the fucking world out there?
It's the end and the death of the world out there. Hey, roll credits. It's like from
shut
the
up.
beginning. Trying to think what else was there. Oh yeah, when Vulcan and co shove the Psyches into the Golden Throne, Malcolm gets a bit of response like, oh, I can concentrate a little bit now, hooray. Kind of thing. What else was there? What else was there of note? Maximus Thane and a few others end up going into a bunker to avoid a wave of warp fire. It's getting very hot in the bunker. They're pushing deeper and deeper. They open the back door and they're inside the Sanctum Imperius. Like, how the fuck we get here? Kind of thing.
That's how the Night Lords get kicked out, I assume.
Well, we haven't got that far yet.
Fair enough.
And I think that's it so far. I think I've touched upon pretty much every major effort. I think, unless there's something I'm missing.
I have no idea.
There's a bit with Kirill Sinderman saying like, hey, do you think the Emperor should have told everyone about this? Because we got all these paintings here of old religions describing things like hell, and it turns out hell's real. It's called the Warp. And I think that's it so far.
The age-old question of, is the Emperor being a giant fucking idiot when he doesn't tell humanity that the warp is a thing?
The answer is always yes.
Hey, that reminds me of Mortal Kombat, where Liu Kang doesn't tell Earthrealm that Outworld's a thing. Just to pull in references from earlier.
Hey.
But yes,
I think he actually came up with an excuse in Mortal 1 Combat as to why he doesn't tell people. I think he actually had an excuse, though, which is more than what the Emperor did.
Yeah, I think it mostly boils down to their tiny minds couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
But yes, it definitely seems like it's an arduous experience chugging through the end and the death. And that's not to say that, it's bad, because that's not what I'm saying.
It's just needlessly padded.
It's very padded. It jumps around like crazy.
Oh, I forgot one bit. Basilio Foe. He's been taken to a laboratory by, I think it's Amon Taramakian.
Right.
One of the custodians. Because he's basically being instructed to make a weapon to basically wipe out the Astartes genome, basically kill all Space Marines and Primarchs in one go.
God, that's ballsy.
Yeah, and he has to get permission to go through Malkador's own personal records, like his own research records. And he's basically coming to having this existential crisis like, I don't know if this weapon will actually work. Why not? Because I didn't take into account the soul. Why not? Because I'm a fucking scientist. I'm not meant to take into account this existential bullshit.
Now that's like me as a physicist. Like, I'm not supposed to account for biological, existential, pseudo-spiritual bollocks in my calculations.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, the Emperor outlawed all forms of theism. So it's like, we have to look at things like purely from scientific standpoints, and that means we have to try and take into account through scientific terms things like the soul, which I've never had to fucking do before, and I don't know how to fucking do it. Gah! And that's where I am now.
Well, it's certainly interesting that the Custodes never had the thought to create a countermeasure to wipe the Astartes out in one go. It's not like they just had it sitting on a desk waiting to be used, but it's interesting that such a thing existed, or had the theoretical possibility to exist.
It was more of a thing like desperate times call for desperate measures. Because Basilio Foe was a prisoner within the Blackstone, which is basically the Imperial Palace's maximum security prison.
Oh yeah, like I know why they wouldn't do it normally, but it's interesting that, because I don't remember when the conversation, I know there's the conversation around Trajan Valoris with Guilliman, but it's interesting that the Custodes know that the Astartes are flawed, and yet never put countermeasures in to deal with them if such an event as, well, the Horus heresy happened.
Hmm.
Because there's the whole thing of like, oh, the Emperor knew it was going to happen, he just didn't know which Primarchs it was going to be, he didn't know it would be Magnus or not, and all this yada yada bollocks. But if the Custodes were aware that the Astartes were flawed or had the potential to rebel against their programming and therefore pose a threat to the Emperor and or the Imperium, they would create a countermeasure to that, because they are not numerous enough to deal with the entire Legiones Astartes, especially dealing with the war, as we've proven by the fact that a number of Custodes have gone down in the space of 45 fucking seconds on the Vengeful Spirit. So why is it only at the 11th hour, when the clocks have stopped and the geometry's wrong, then are they reaching for a countermeasure, when, considering how long they've had to think about and prepare for these eventualities, no one thought to ask, what if the Emperor's new pets rebel against their programming? And I know the Emperor planned for that to happen, but also, why didn't the Custodes? Because they're smart enough, they'll have known the Emperor's closest thoughts on the matter.
Yeah, it does seem like something, unless I'm forgetting something, that does seem like a little bit of a plot hole. But I could be simply forgetting something that was explained in the previous book.
Or it could be that it is that such a thing exists, but only Valdor knows about it, and Valdor's currently indisposed. Because we know Valdor has overseen Astartes' genocide before. See also his novel. So we know Valdor was quite down with doing it.
That was Thunder Wars, but yeah, I take your point.
Yeah, but we know Valdor's down to do it, so it would be one of those things of maybe Valdor was cooking something, but he didn't dare disclose it except to his closest confidants, who were then keeping it to themselves, and thus it didn't get around the 10,000 that there was a risk that the Astartes could rebel. And any who did was like, they are warriors of the Emperor's own design. If the Emperor had any fear they would rebel, he would take steps against it. Worry not, child. Type bollocks. Or it's like, your concern has been noted. I will consult with the Emperor. Bye. Yeah. Type thing. It's like, I think that there's a way you can excuse it away if it's this is a Valdor level scheme that he's been cooking, but he didn't tell anybody about it because he didn't dare or he didn't want to whatever. But it just feels odd that the Custodes don't have a Astartes genocide countermeasure either made or planned.
No, I get what you mean.
I know it's a nitpick, but, you know, that's what we're here to do. Nitpick.
It might get explained later on in the book, I don't know.
Maybe.
But yeah, again, I should be able to finish this by next episode. It's just a hecking chonker of a book. So it's not a bad book per se, but it's definitely one of the weaker books in the Siege series so far, purely because of the sheer amount of padding and repetitious bullshit.
It's also in the middle, which it wasn't expecting to be.
Yeah. Again, as Oculus said, there's far too little material for 3 books without the excess padding, but there's also too much for 2 books.
Yeah.
So it's like, because again, this book has the same problem that part 1 did with the needless padding. Because I was saying I complained about the first book a few episodes back.
Yep, you did.
I say a few episodes back, quite a while back now, but I digress. It's just like with things like the Ulfway chapter or the Kelbor Howl chapter. I don't know if they're getting touched on later, but if they're not, they just feel superfluous. Because it feels like the very first chapter is literally just there to name drop the fucking book.
Which, ugh.
Yeah. Again, it's the whole Peter Griffin going, ha ha, he said it thing.
Yeah, he said the thing. Look, he said the thing.
But yeah, I think unless you have any other questions, I think I'll close spoilers there.
No, I think it's one of them of, aside from why is the Ghost of Ferrus Manor suddenly on the Vengeful Spirit, but also we know the Vengeful Spirit traps things quite nicely, see also Crystal Sanguinius, so I can excuse it, but how is it haunting Vulcan then just decided to teleport to, I'm going to haunt Sanguinius for 10 minutes now?
I think in regards to Sanguinius, it's because, remember, after Istvan, Horus had Ferris's skull as a trophy.
Yes.
So if Ferris's skull is on the Vengeful Spirit currently,
A fraction of his soul must be too. Is
possibly.
that the logic?
That's one way you could argue, I imagine, yeah.
Okay. That's fair enough then.
I mean, that's how I'd explain it anyway. Like, his skull, a part of him is there, therefore a part of his soul can manifest. And it can manifest because, the Vengeful Spirit is soaked in wibbly, wobbly, warpy, shitty stuff. Yeah. So, yeah. It's magic, I ain't got to explain shit.
No, that tracks.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll come out of spoilers there, and yeah, I can't believe CM Punk won't let Cody Rhodes finish his story. That's bullshit in of itself.
We shall
finish the damn story.
We should have finished the damn story at 39, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, but at least we got the chicken meme out of it.
True.
Yes. So yeah, I think it's time for some questions because we didn't get any last time. So
no, we didn't.
Well, we didn't.
Right.
We didn't. I say we didn't get any. So we didn't get around to doing any last time. Is what I meant.
Yes. Okay. So here we go. We're starting with the heresy theme. So Guilliman was, and correct me if I'm wrong here, against the warrior lodges because they disrupted legionary cohesion, right?
That tracks, yeah.
But when the legions were split into chapters, some of them were split on ideological lines. See also the Black Templars and the Flesh Terrors. How is that any different?
I think in regards to the logic there, as far as Gilliman's concerned, he probably thinks that because these are being formed into specialist, dedicated chapters, which are going to be their own autonomous, fighting forces, it would probably be better for cohesion, from a militaristic standpoint, for the soldiers involved to share a similar mindset or similar, belief system. Again, purely for cohesion's sake, I imagine.
There's actually a good reply to the comment that says Guilliman may have foreseen the rifts between his brothers escalating into full-blown conflict, and as the legions being broken was what's quote here, a necessary decentralization of power, allowing them to develop their own unique traits and traditions along ideological lines would help ease the transition into independent, as you say, autonomous chapters.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
It does.
Okay. Would Trays in the Infinite be able to contain a demon Primarch in his collection? Or, because they're a creature of the warp, would the Tesseract technology be ineffective?
Yes, he would, and my evidence for this comes from the novel Sons of the Hydra, because in that novel, the Alpha Legion get hold of a Tesseract Labyrinth, or Tesseract Vault, whatever the little things are called, the little handheld ones called, and they open it up, and inside was a Bloodthirster.
Well, there you go then, enough said.
So there you go. If it can contain a Bloodthirster, it could probably contain a Demon Primarch. Interestingly enough, when the Bloodthirster was freed, it was noted that the flames emanating from its body were green.
Oh.
Which seems to suggest that it's been partially, for lack of a better term, tainted. Yeah, tainted by its Necron energies or whatever, which is kind of interesting.
Okay.
But if you want to paint a green Bloodthirster, there you go. You have an excuse now.
Okay. Question that you can potentially answer. So, there are 3 endings shown in the book Genefather, which we discussed last time?
A few episodes ago, yeah.
A couple episodes ago. There are 3 endings shown. The Call arc, the Bile arc, and the Dark Mechanicum arc.
Yes.
It says, these endings all have potential to have major impacts on both lore and tabletop. Do you think that these things will actually come to pass, or will it just be relegated to your future plot lines in their respective series, i.e. Call's and Bile's next novels will just follow on these plot threads, or will it go wider than that and to wider lore or the tabletop itself?
I don't think it will go much wider, to be honest. I think it'll just be relegated to maybe another book or 2, purely because for 9th edition and 10th edition so far, there seems to be a little hesitation in regards to how far Games Workshop's willing to move the plot forward. I think that comes from partly from some of the backlash that came with 8th, because 8th had that time skip, didn't it?
It did.
And I think that pissed a couple of people off, and they made such a stink about it that Games Workshop went, okay, we'll wheel that back. We're not going to push forward then. Fine, kind of thing. So I don't think there's going to be that much. I mean, it probably might get expanded upon, but it probably won't be anything major. Like, again, maybe like a self-contained plot arc in like maybe a book trilogy. Like, if you get another Belisarius Call book for like, the Belisarius Call trilogy, as it were.
Maybe.
But
I partially disagree. Because if they are ever... There's one thing that currently is missing from Tabletop 40k that you would expect to be there from the current lore. The Dark Mechanicum Codex, yeah. And maybe these Dark Mechanicum plot threads are being set up. Obviously, I know it's the whole, we gave them a bloody Necron or something, or a Man of Iron, or whatever it was. Then maybe that's not going. That particular plot thread isn't going to go anywhere. But starting to lay the ground for bringing the Dark Mechanicum more into their own faction, now that Vashtor's a thing, and so on and so on. That bit I could see going somewhere. Call and Bile, well, Cole's too busy being the architect of mass Blackstone mining to care about whatever Bile's up to, and, well, Josh Reynolds isn't there to write more Bile, so I don't think that's one's going to go anywhere.
As a counterpoint to the whole Dark Mechanicum thing, do you know what else has also been in the lore for a long time that doesn't have a codex? Traitor Guard.
No, they are now in the book.
Oh, do they actually have a book now? Like,
no, they have a unit.
A unit.
They have a kill team that got moved over with the Traitor Enforcer and the actual Traitor Guardsman squad. It's now in the Chaos Space Marine Codex.
I wouldn't count a single kill team, to be honest. I'm talking
No,
about
but
as
by that lot-
a standalone codex kind of thing.
Yeah, but if you're going to do a Traitor Guard Codex, you do Lost in the Damned. But they've done Lost in the Damned inside the Chaos Space Marines Codex because there's a giant pile of cultist shit in there. You can basically run an entirely cultist army if you want. So they've sort of done that, like a light touch version of Lost in the Damned with Traitor Guard inside the Chaos Marine Codex.
Well, there you go then.
Yeah. But I want to pick up on the whole...
Sorry, because in regards to the regular Adeptus Mechanicus, didn't we not get like an actual codex for until like 7th or something stupid like that?
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. So we won't get a Dark Mechanicum until about 14th?
Indeed. But I just want to pick up on your whole point about time skip and the whole anger about it, because I think we were one of those people who was quite annoyed about the fact that we just jumped 200 years and a bunch of shit happened off screen. I'm pretty sure we were in that camp of people who were annoyed about it. And it just reminded me of an old Animaticus skit. So everyone said to GW, move the plot. Okay. No, not like that.
Yeah.
It's one of them of like, we're never going to be fully satisfied as a community because we all want different things. Like, that's fine. We all want different things. But the problem is that those who have the strongest opinions usually shout the loudest. And we've got a platform to do a lot of shouting. And we are very much about continuity, finding a plot thread, letting that plot thread cook and develop and grow. So when you just put a massive 200-year time skip in, it kind of rubs us all up the wrong way.
To be honest, I'm more annoyed about the fact that not only did they do the time skip, but they also walked back on it. It's like, you didn't even have the courage to hold to your fucking guns on that.
Yeah, like, if you're going to do it, then stick to your guns and fill in the gaps like you were planning to do.
Yeah.
But I hope that it hasn't scared GW off of ever moving the plot again. Like, they've just introduced, like, 2 massive apocalyptic threats in the form of the Necrons and the Tyranids. Yay, great. But the main plot thread at the moment is still Abaddon and Guilliman. And those 2 things still have to be resolved. They have to be. So I hope that as much as GW got a lot of flack when they did the time jump, I don't think that we have a problem with them moving the plot forward, because that's how we develop, it's how we grow, it's how we tell new stories. I have no issue with that. The issue comes from when you just jump the plot forward 200 years, make galactically massive shifts in the power dynamics, and just expect us to roll with it without any explanation. It doesn't help.
No. But I just reminded of something. Because, ever since Lion came back, have Lion and Gilliman actually reunited yet?
Not that we've seen in paper, but there's a Codex supplement for Dark Angels out in like a few weeks. So that should hopefully touch on that reunion.
Yeah, because you think that'd be a kind of a monumental fucking deal kind of thing.
Yeah, just a bit.
Yeah. I think we have time for maybe one more question.
Yeah, all right. Let's finish on something a bit of a joke. What if instead of Lorgar Aurelian, it was Lorgar Australian? Or what if full Grim was only half Grim instead?
I'm guessing that guy's a dad.
It's probably a couple of dad jokes, yeah. It was the one in front of me and I found it funny.
And given the time, we will call it there, ladies and gentlemen. So, thank you very much to everyone who tuned in for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, this has been Remleiz from 40k Theories.
And this has been me from Tactica Imperialis.
And we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.